Get started. Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here this afternoon. Thank you especially to the mayors and to community members and some senior leadership here in Houston County. Sure to appreciate y'all. Appreciate the news media being here to give us a little bit of coverage. So the mayors and I have been meeting together, and we are excited to announce that we will be calling a referendum on SPLOST 2024 coming up in November. And I want to talk a little bit about SPLOST 2018, the SPLOST that we are currently in and raising money in. It has generated $144 million of revenue for the cities, for the county, really primarily for capital projects in and around Houston County. And in doing so, it has helped to defray a lot of other tax expenses. And I know looking at our budget, and I know with a lot of the city's budgets as well, a lot of the capital burden of building buildings, maintaining roads, things like that is on the SPLOST. And so it's a consumption tax, it's a sales tax, it's not a property tax or an income tax. And so it's one of the taxes that is generally viewed more favorable, and I certainly do so. So we're here today to announce that we are calling a referendum on the SPLOST for 2024. The current SPLOST that we're in, the SPLOST 2018, expires in September of 2024. So we're going to go ahead and vote in November of 2023. November 7th, 2023 is when the referendum will be. That will align with the elections happening in the cities as well. And that will be when we vote on it to give us plenty of time to get prepared to go to the next SPLOST in 2024. I've asked the mayors to be here today, and they have gratefully obliged to talk a little bit about the historical impact of SPLOST in their communities. And so first off, I want to invite up Mayor John Harley from the city of Centerville to come up and talk about what SPLOST has meant to Centerville.
Well, thank you, Chairman, and thank you all taxpayers out there. We do appreciate it. I've been involved with the city of Centerville for many years, and the very first SPLOST project we had in there was our city hall. And that was one that was sponsored completely through Houston County and the SPLOST program. As far as I can tell in my life and the way I feel, that's where Centerville really started growing and becoming the community that it is today. And SPLOST has done absolutely nothing but help us, increase the value for our citizens. It's really done a great job. We have a new police station, we have a new courthouse, we have a new fire station, outstanding fire station. All those SPLOST incentives. Our new park is partially SPLOST. It's a great park out there. We've had a lot of improvements on the streets. We would not have been able to pave many of the streets that we pave today if it hadn't been for SPLOST. And the taxpayers who voted for it. We appreciate them very much too. We're looking forward to this other new one coming up. This last one's been beneficial to the city, but we hope to keep it going, and we hope they will keep the taxes down by doing that. Your property taxes. Because I know the values of properties are going up every day, and that impacts us. Because I own my house too, and I pay taxes, just like everybody else. So we want to keep those under control, and this SPLOST is going to help us do it. Because there's no way we can really keep up with the growth in our communities without SPLOST. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Next up is Mayor Patrick from the city of Warner Robins.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here today to talk about SPLOST and the history of SPLOST and how SPLOST has impacted our entire community here in Houston County. For many of us who live here in Houston County don't typically understand what SPLOST does do for our community on an everyday basis. In Houston County, we do not have the luxury of a T-SPLOST, which is a SPLOST that helps us do roads. A lot of the things we're seeing over the years that SPLOST has done has helped us better our road systems, which cost millions upon millions of dollars. And if we did not have SPLOST, that means our tax dollars would increase and we'd be paying more every year to have the basic necessities of nice streets in our community. That's just one example of the history, the historical value and impact SPLOST has had in our community. Now, for capital improvements, we cannot do the capital improvements without having SPLOST dollars at our fingertips. We do not receive a LOST, which is a local option sales tax. We only receive our SPLOST, which is for capital improvement projects. So we need that to make our buildings, to add new great facilities throughout our county, and we've taken great advantage of doing that over the years. And we intend to continue doing that as time progresses. Look forward to the next SPLOST and to see what great buildings and great roads and great opportunities come with the new SPLOST that we have decided to do as a county. SPLOST strengthens all of us. And one thing I like about SPLOST, the SPLOST process, which sometimes goes unnoted, is how it brings all of the municipalities together to work as a team to find out what's important for our entire community, not just our individual municipality. And that, to me, is immeasurable, because we know at least every SPLOST term we are going to be on one accord when it comes to the planning of the growth in our county. And the city of Warner Robins, we enjoy that aspect of it, and we look forward to being a continued partner in SPLOST and bringing more great roads, more great buildings, more great opportunities to the taxpayers of Houston County. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Patrick. Next up from the city of Perry is Mayor Randall Walker. I don't know why I felt the need to get up here and introduce each one of them.
Well, maybe, we don't get to see each other very much. But good afternoon, and I too would like to say thank you, as the other mayors had, to the taxpayers here in the county, because without your decision to vote on this SPLOST and vote favorably, we would not have the funds that we have to do the capital projects that we've enjoyed. We're here to talk a little bit about history, and you can go back a number of years. For those of you who lived in Perry, we had a bridge that stood out in a field or in a culvert for a number of years before we had SPLOST dollars to build the Ball Street extension. And that's been a real improvement with our industries in the south part of town. We've also now experiencing the widening of Houston Lake Road, which is something that needed to be done given the growth and the traffic that's flowing through that artery in downtown Perry. We also have a connectivity plan that connects our sidewalks, it connects our walking trails and those type things. And we would not be able to enjoy those amenities if it were not for the voters voting for the SPLOST in the past. We have a new animal control. I guess it's not new, Robert. I guess it's probably 8 years old now that we have a new animal control center in downtown Perry. But with our growth, we've had a tremendous demand upon our infrastructure, our sewer and our water demands, and without this additional funding, it would have been very difficult to continually improve those services. But one of our big shining monuments out there, I guess they would be, that came out of SPLOST is the Davis Farm Fire Station. And we were able to build that and expand our fire service to the north part of town. So it has really been critical for the success of Perry, Georgia, to enjoy the SPLOST and the favorable vote that taxpayers have voted for in the past, and we thank you for that.
And finally, I'd like to invite up former Chairman Tommy Stonecker. Chairman Stonecker probably knows more in his little pinky about SPLOST than any of the rest of us in this room combined in our whole bodies. So he's been a tireless advocate for the SPLOST and its benefits for the people of Houston County. Chairman Stonecker, come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and all of you that's here today, thank y'all for being here. I think this is a monumental day and a historic day for the three mayors and the chairman coming together to be able to advise the general public that their plans are to have a SPLOST vote in November of this year, which would take effect in 2024. when I started putting together my notes, I started to list every project since the inception of it. And I said, well, if I do that, we're going to be here for a while. So I'm not going to do that, but I'm going to highlight a few things, and the three mayors have already highlighted some of those things as well, just to show you the benefits. I will tell you, though, for history, the SPLOST goes back about 27 years in this county. Around 1996 was the first one. And it was solely for the courthouse that we call the new courthouse now, on Perry Parkway, and the detention facility. That was the sole use of those dollars back then. There was no other projects in that. That was the very first one. Mayor Patrick, I thought, hit the nail on the head in remarks that she made just a minute ago. The SPLOST has been a catalyst for the three cities and the county to come together and work together. And that's the reason you've had the success that you have with these SPLOST projects, is because of that. And it was the catalyst that brought them together. I remember the first SPLOST, Mayor Walker at that time, and Warner Robins, and Chairman Stafford in the county, they concurred. That meant no cities really got any money on that first SPLOST, because the need for that courthouse and that detention facility, because at that time the county as a whole was on the verge of receiving a court order to build those facilities. And the county did not have the revenues to do that, and that meant the taxes that's been alluded to, property taxes, would have by court order went up significantly. And a mill 26, 27 years ago was probably about $1.1 million or $1.2 million. Wasn't generating a lot of money back then. So the number of years it would have took to pay those facilities off, if they had had the levy millage, would have been long term. And then the SPLOST was born. And the SPLOST was born statewide. The tool was created by the General Assembly to give the local governments a tool to be able to do capital improvement projects. And that's how it was born, and that's how this county started doing it. Also, there are some that wonder why the three cities in the county get 6 years, and like the Board of Education and other areas may get 5 years. The reason being, if you have an intergovernmental agreement between all the local governments, in this case, the three cities in the county, you get 6 years. If you cannot reach that intergovernmental agreement, it can only be 5 years. So that was one of the things, and this county has always come together and strive for the 6 year and have the agreements and all. I just want to touch on some projects though, and transportation was very big at the very beginning of the SPLOSTs. It was about 80 or 90% of the first few SPLOSTs we had went into transportation. And transportation included a lot of things, not just the asphalt that you rode on, but it could have been intersection improvements, traffic control devices, et cetera, airports, sidewalks. Centerville, Perry, and Warner Robins has done a great job improving sidewalks. Public safety, a lot of money has gone into public safety throughout this county, not only on the county side and the three city sides. It's been mentioned by the three cities thus far, but a lot of it has gone in there, and I can assure you that none of them would have been able to do what has been done today unless they'd have had that level of revenue coming in to do that. Libraries, utilities, public works, heavy equipment and public works. I think all the governments have engaged in that. When you start buying excavators or bulldozers and all, you're getting into big dollars, ladies and gentlemen. And general fund cannot handle those kinds of expenses on a reoccurring basis and all. So that's been really good. The other thing that's sort of out of sight, but I've always said is the lifeline of this county as a whole, particularly in public safety, is the 911 system. There's a lot of money that's been put in the 911 system through the SPLOST, and there will need to be additional monies put into the 911 system going forward. Those of you in the computer age know that computers don't last very long. There's a cycle of changing that equipment out. And that building is basically a big old computer for handling all those calls that come in there and all. Street lights was another thing that I was extremely proud of. Warner Robins has been very aggressive on that. Centerville has as well, in doing street light improvements and all. Communications, public health, and EMS. It's been mentioned by the three mayors so far that it does keep down property taxes. There is no way that these type capital intense projects can be done without significant dollars. Again, you can take the millage rates that they have and see what they would draw on 1 mill or 2 mills or whatever the millage is to put on these capital projects, and they would be in debt for a long time trying to pay it off. It's just impossibility to do it. The other thing to keep in mind, and I think a lot of times it's forgotten, but the sales tax, the majority of the sales tax is not paid by the people that lived here. Percentage-wise, I think it's changed. I have not checked in recent years, but the dollars that come in sales tax is really coming in from the outside, coming here to be spent. Meaning, if you own property here, you got to pay all of them taxes. But if you got the sales tax coming in and you got other people helping you pay the sales tax, it relieves the burden on the local people. That is a huge thing. Cooperation for the four governments working together has been a success over the years. Again, I mentioned the word catalyst. I do think that is the reason the three cities in the county has come together over the years the way they have and all. And a lot of times people wonder why their project was not in the SPLOST. I can tell you, you can't put them all in there. There's not enough revenue to put all projects that may be needed throughout the county in a single SPLOST. Therefore, what you have to do is chip away at those numbers of those projects every time you have a SPLOST and you get rid of one of those projects, and then eventually you will be able to say, I can see light at the end of the tunnel for these capital intense projects that we need throughout this county and all. The one thing I want to say for the three mayors and the chairman, as well as the staff people that are here, I've been through these since its inception, and they are difficult, ladies and gentlemen, to put together. Very difficult. Takes an awful lot of work, an awful lot of planning, an awful lot of compromise, and a lot of agreement between everyone involved. It does not happen easily. It has always been very amenable in the past, and I see nothing but it being the same in the future because of the importance for the longevity of SPLOST to be able to continue to do these projects that need to be done. I think another thing that we as citizens need to do is make sure to trust the elected officials and their staff to come up with a well-rounded program having public input. And there will be public input. That is a required process in it. But I think we have got to have a trust in them. And I've always felt like there was a level of trust among the voters and citizens in these previous SPLOSTs. And I think we as citizens need to give that level of trust to these three chief elected city officials and the chairman of the county commissioners, and make sure we trust their judgment in what is being done in this program and all. And without a doubt, the capital projects completed and ongoing over the past 27 years would not have occurred without a SPLOST. Many, many improvements have been made. Again, I wished I would have had time to have written down the list and gone back and done a little research myself and been able to just hand it out to you to see what has already been done besides what needs to be done in the future. The mayors and chairman has already mentioned this, and I think every one of us, when we have a time in a public setting, to say thank you to the voters and to the citizens, because without them and their support, what they're doing in calling for this SPLOST is meaningless. It is the voters that control whether or not you're going to have a SPLOST. It is up to the government leaders to provide the program and give it to them to show what you will do with those dollars. And I do every day, even today, thank the voters for what they have done in the past, and I would thank them for their consideration going forward with this call of this 2024 SPLOST that will be voted on. I think there is a need for it, because otherwise it will cease, ladies and gentlemen. Capital intense projects will cease because of the lack of ability to raise revenues and all. I commend the three mayors and the chairman for what you've done thus far. It is not an easy task. Actually, before I left office, I was asked if I would engage in starting this process, and I knew the process was long. I knew it took a lot of effort and a lot of work, and it did not need to be handed off. It needed to be started from the inception of people that was going to be in place throughout it. You didn't need to have a disjoint on it. And but y'all have done a fantastic job thus far. I look forward to supporting you. I, as a citizen, look forward to supporting it. And good things will happen or continue to happen as long as we have the level of a cooperation that we've had in the past. And I am thoroughly convinced that will happen, because everyone knows of the situation if it doesn't happen, what happens to all of us. No one individual gets hurt. Everybody gets hurt. So look forward to it. It's going to be a great one. Be a great time. A lot of work to do. A lot of salesmanship. Explaining to people, when I say salesmanship, you've got to educate people what they got to vote on. That's what you got to do, and why they need to do it. And I think that is a process. Those of you as community leaders in here today, people that have family members and all, once that project list is determined, that is when you go and let these individuals know what they need to go vote for and when they need to go vote and all. I think for the three mayors and the chairman, I think the way it's going to turn out this time, though, I remember the last time that we had a SPLOST vote in the city election, they was disjointed. Thank goodness the cities and the county are now, not talked about very much, are now working together, and it's basically like a single election system, meaning the county runs this system, the elections for the cities and all, and now you won't have to vote on this machine and then go to the other side of town and vote on another machine. You will be able to do it at the same location. And if I have just erred in what I said, I want Chairman Perdue to correct me before I get out of here. But that's the way I believe it will be done in November of this year. Wherever you vote, you're going to have that opportunity to vote for that SPLOST at that same machine at the same time without having to do anything different. That is huge. That's huge, Mayor, Chairman. That is huge. And thank goodness that was done, because we did not need to get into a season of having a SPLOST and having it disjointed from the other election. So that will be very positive going forward. With that being said, I've talked too much. I took my time and some other people's time probably as well. But I'm excited about what has been done. I've been a very small part of it over those years, because the taxpayers has been the big part. They're the ones that approved it, and they're the ones that need to be thanked every day for the benefits that has been received by all citizens in this county. Thank you. Good luck to you, and God bless each one of you.
Well, in wrapping up, I want to say thank you for being here today, listening to our announcement and talk about SPLOST. I want to mention two more things. The first is a revenue projection or revenue goal for the 2024 SPLOST. The 2018 SPLOST has a revenue projection of $145 million. And as I said earlier, we've already taken in $144 million, so we will meet that goal, no problem. The 2024 SPLOST, as the mayors and I have discussed, we have settled on a revenue projection of $200 million for the SPLOST for 2024. That's a significant increase, but as you look at the amount of revenue that we're bringing in each month on this SPLOST, we feel confident that that is a good, solid, achievable, conservative number that won't put us in a bind in the future and allows us to appropriately plan projects. So $200 million is the revenue projection. Two public hearings will be held. The first will be on June 29th at 6 p.m. here in this room. And the next one will be on July 10th at 6 p.m. at the Perry Courthouse, or the new courthouse in Perry, as Chairman Stonecker said. So looking forward to the public participation in those meetings. In the meantime, we'll begin to talk about projects and what the mayors and I have been discussing as far as project lists, and allow the public to give us their opinion on what should be included, which is a vital part of this process. Again, thank you for being here today. Thank you for the mayors. Thank you for Chairman Stonecker for being here and sharing your wisdom with us. Thank you very much.
Good to see you. That's right. Yeah, they're doing a really good job. We got some very positive comments about how they've been able to keep the traffic flowing and not run over any of the workers.
Well, we had the Church Street right in the middle of the lake. But definitely regional should make great progress on doing those roads. So closing up the rest of the